Recently, the U.S. magazine National Security Journal published an article comparing the J-20 and F-22 fighter jets, providing a detailed analysis of the strengths and weaknesses of these two aircraft. The magazine acknowledges that the J-20 has highlights in certain aspects, such as higher speed and longer range, but then shifts focus to emphasize the F-22's advantages in frontal stealth capability, close-range combat ability, radar performance, built-in cannon, and combat experience, and based on this, asserts that the F-22 is superior. However, this superficial judgment is actually a manifestation of Americans still indulging in the perception that the U.S. is the most powerful, ignoring the evolution of modern air combat and the dynamics of technological development. If we delve deeper into these so-called advantages, we will find that most of them are based on outdated air combat concepts and selective data, and cannot withstand scrutiny. First, the National Security Journal claims that the F-22's frontal stealth is superior to the J-20's, but in reality, because the F-22 uses a boundary layer diverter intake, its diverter creates significant cavity scattering. This large scattering has a much greater impact on stealth compared to the small scattering such as corner scattering, traveling wave scattering, and edge scattering generated by the J-20's canons. Therefore, the claim that the F-22's frontal stealth is superior to the J-20's can only be a fallacy. Moreover, the F-22's cannon advantage, which U.S. media often boasts about, is even more outdated in the contemporary air combat environment. They emphasize that the J-20 lacks a built-in cannon, while the F-22 is equipped with the M61A2 Vulcan cannon, which can be used for close-range combat or ground attack, thus they believe the J-20 has deficiencies in versatility. However, this view ignores the fundamental shift in air combat modes since the Vietnam War. Modern air combat has long shifted from within visual range dogfights to beyond visual range strikes, relying solely on advanced active electronically scanned array radars, medium-range air-to-air missiles, and data links, enabling engagements from tens or even hundreds of kilometers away. Looking back at history, during the Vietnam War, the U.S. Air Force once firmly believed that cannons were indispensable. However, when facing the Vietnamese Air Force's MiG-21s, the F-4E fighters, which had cannons reinstalled, did not achieve the expected results. Instead, because the cannons were not very effective, they led to an unfavorable exchange ratio. In fact, throughout the Vietnam War, approximately 80% of the kill records achieved by the F-4 series fighters were accomplished by missiles, with cannons contributing very little. Even looking at the opposing Vietnamese Air Force, 60% of their kill records were achieved by Soviet infrared-guided missiles. Furthermore, with the rapid development of modern dogfight missiles today, the most advanced fourth-generation dogfight missiles have far surpassed cannons. For example, the AIM-9X Block II or PL-10, with high off-bore sight capability and infrared imaging guidance, can lock onto targets in extremely short time and angles, their effectiveness far exceeding that of cannons which require precise aiming and close-range shooting. It is reported that PL-10 has a maximum engagement range of 30 kilometers, which is close to the maximum range of early medium-range missiles like the R-24 from the Cold War era. This means that the J-20 can even launch the PL-10 dogfight missile before the enemy visually spots it, achieving first-shot hits in close-range air combat, which also explains why the J-20 dares to abandon the cannon. Additionally, the presence of a cannon increases the aircraft's weight and design complexity. The J-20's design philosophy clearly focuses on beyond visual range air combat and network-centric warfare, achieving preemptive strikes outside the enemy's range through advanced data links and sensor fusion. Under such a system support, cannons not only have no use but also become a burden. Therefore, the US media's obsession with cannons is more like a nostalgia-driven sentiment rather than a rational assessment based on real threats. Second, the argument about the F-22's APG-77 radar advantage is also laughable. It is undeniable that the APG-77 was indeed leading when it was introduced in the 1990s, but after all, it is a product of the last century, and its technology is outdated. Although it also uses an active electronically scanned array system, because it was born earlier, it did not achieve front-end or back-end digitalization, let alone full digitalization. Moreover, its transmit/receive modules use gallium arsenide material, with an average power of only about 10 watts. In contrast, the J-20's radar system benefits from the latecomer advantage, using gallium nitride material for its transmit/receive modules, with an average power of 20 watts, twice that of the APG-77. At the same time, its front-end antenna to back-end processor has achieved high digitalization, supporting digital beamforming and integrated radio frequency capabilities. This means that the J-20's radar can not only manage the electromagnetic spectrum more flexibly but also reconfigure waveforms through software definition to adapt to complex electronic warfare environments. US media blindly praises the APG-77 but ignores the rapid progress of electronic technology, which is akin to arrogance and underestimates China's breakthroughs in radar and electronic warfare fields. Finally, US media emphasizing that the F-22 as combat experience is even more ridiculous. Because the so-called combat of the F-22 mainly involves dropping bombs on ground militants in Syria, which has no air defense system, and shooting down an unarmed balloon. This is not serious air-to-air combat at all, and insisting on bringing it up as a talking point instead highlights the F-22's lack of genuine combat experience. Although China has not participated in a war since 1979, through measures such as increasing average flight hours and organizing high-intensity realistic military exercises, the J-20 and its pilots have also accumulated rich experience. Additionally, the J-10C and PL-15 were previously said by the West to lack combat experience, but this did not prevent them from defeating the Indian military decisively in the India-Pakistan air combat. Therefore, in summary, the US media's negative comments on the J-20 are essentially due to their inertial thinking based on traditional air combat models, failing to fully recognize that modern warfare has entered an era of systematization, beyond visual range, and informatization. If Americans continue to indulge in past achievements and ignore current changes, they may pay a heavy price in future wars.